Greetings all, this is Hairy Nick. We're back on FFG's website because we have a new article for Star Wars Legion. That's right, remember that game, guys? This is Orders from High Command, and it's a bit of a quasi-reveal article, sort of quasi-rules explaining article, which is really cool. I would really like it if FFG just posted the rulebook for Star Wars Legion. We're looking at a release in this sometime in January, so I don't really understand why we don't have a rulebook yet. But what this article is doing, and what I'm hoping we have from sequential articles, is it's explaining a core part of the rules, and it's doing a good job of just explaining that part of the rules, and hopefully the next article will explain this and that, and by the time the game releases, we'll have a nice article on each of the different parts of the rules. Now, especially this. This is an article explaining the command cards, and this is a very unique thing for the game of Star Wars Legion. Well, at least it's unique in the form of tactical squad-based games. I mean, obviously it harkens back to a lot of other games that FFG make, but command cards are not something you have like in 40k or Infinity. In fact, there's nothing like that in 40k or Infinity. There are sort of aspects of this that are in those games, but command cards are basically these cards you have as a hand of cards. You're dealt 7 cards at the start of the game, and the game is played over 6 rounds. At the start of each round, you and your opponent secretively put forward a command card, and then that card is revealed, and that command card affects the game for that turn. That means you have one more command card than you actually have to use over the course of the game. Gives you a bit more flexibility, which is fantastic. But it's a very unique way of deciding the order of activation of units, and that's what this all boils down to. It is the order of which the units activate. Let's just scroll down to the spread of command cards we're shown in this article. Now we do have a few more reveals here. But basically, you pick command cards at the start of the game based on what commander you have. Now, in the core set, it would appear that we have 4 generic command cards that can be used for any commander, and 3 unique cards that go with the commanders. We have here the 3 Vader cards, for example. We've only been shown 1 of the cards that go with Luke Skywalker, but I would wager that we get another 2 in the pack as well, each with these different priorities. Now, I'll go ahead and explain what's going on with these. So I'll bring up this reveal here we have of Push, for example. Now, on the card, we have these pips, and these pips are relating to priority. Basically, when you and your opponent reveal your command card, the person with the lowest amount of pips gets to activate first, and then you alternate for the rest of the turn activating units. So in general, the lower the pips on the command card, the less actions you have, the less activations you get. However, you then get priority. So it's very interesting how that plays out. For example, here we have ambush, push, and assault. And I'll tell you right now, guys, based on all the pictures we've seen from the various leaks we've had, ambush is for 1 pip, activate 1 unit. Push is 2 pips, activate 2 units. Assault is 3 pips, activate 3 units. We've already had all those cards spoiled through various articles. And basically, you can trade off a better chance of activating first if you only get 1 command activation. For example, with ambush. If you have, say, Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader locked in close battle, and you absolutely must swing your lightsaber first at the start of the next turn, you might just want to play ambush. Indeed, there are actually commander-specific cards that only have 1 pip as well, and they play into the natural abilities of that commander. For example, here, we have Implaceable, which is a Darth Vader command card, and we don't really get to see everything on it, but at the end of Darth Vader's first activation, you may suffer 1 wound to shuffle his command token into the order pool. During his second activation, he performs a free attack or a free action or something like that. But basically, if you must only activate Vader, you probably just want to play Implaceable. Or you might want to save Implaceable if you don't want to use that card text. You might just use Ambush and use that to activate Vader. It's also worth noting that these cards up here can activate any units. Whereas if you have a look at these commander-specific cards, some of them say Vader. Master of Evil says Vader and 2 units. Or they can even say troopers, not units. And troopers are a specific type of unit, which we'll get into very soon. Now, before we move on, I will also explain that you don't just activate the units that you send commands to directly using these command cards. What these cards do is allows the commander to assign a command token to himself or other units around him at range 1 to 3. And depending on the number of units, say Vader and 2 units or Assault gives you 3 units, that's the amount of tokens you can place onto the battlefield. The rest of the tokens representing all your other units are then shuffled face down in a pile or put into a bag. And if you want to activate one of those units, you draw it at random and you must activate a unit with the corresponding symbol, which is very, very interesting. I really like that whole idea because it means every unit gets to activate every turn. That's fantastic. But depending on how you prioritize your commands, you don't necessarily get any benefit out of the order of which you want to activate things. And that can get very hairy sometimes. For example, the speeder bikes, when they activate, they must move. And you probably, in general, want to have better control over that. And that's why they have things like the comm relay or the comm link or whatever it is, which lets them get commands from anywhere on the battlefield. That makes so much sense now that we've seen the command cards and that upgrade together, which is really, really cool. I mean, there are some units in the game which you might not care about when they activate, like troopers or whatever, but it's all very interesting. And I want to just scroll down to this part of the page as well, because we have an explanation of all the different types of units. Obviously, we have the commander, that's represented by Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. The trooper units, which is the rebel troopers or the stormtroopers. Special forces, which we don't actually have any of yet, which is interesting. Just as a sort of a pie in the sky kind of prediction, I'm thinking like jetpack Mandalorian stormtroopers for the Imperials, maybe Wookiees for the Rebels, something like that. That's the kind of thing I think this is going to be. Support, we have the speeder bikes for the Imperials and the AT-RT Walker for the Rebels. Heavy, we have the Snow Speeder for the Rebels and the AT-ST for the Imperials. And this is all very interesting. Now, if you guys have never played an RTS on computer or a tabletop strategy game like 40k or something like that, you have to be aware of something. If you only put one of a certain type of unit into your squad, say you just want to fight with Darth Vader and a bunch of stormtroopers, you're probably going to get stomped into the ground because you don't have a versatile army. Basically, in all of these games, and I'm assuming Legion will be no different, you want to have versatile armies. However, if you take a look at what's going on here, if you have that randomized pile of command tokens and you have, say, 4 different types of units, you have very little choice over the units you have to activate when you draw a command token. So you have one squad of stormtroopers and an AT-ST and a speeder bike and Vader. That means when you draw the trooper token, you must activate those stormtroopers. You have no choice. But if you, say, have 3 squads of stormtroopers and an AT-ST, and I don't know how the points are going to work out like that, but I'm just trying to make an example here. If you draw that trooper icon token at random, it means you can activate any one of those 3 stormtrooper armies. So that means there is a tangible benefit from having multiples of the same kind of unit, as well as the obvious benefit of having a more diverse army. So that's really going to play into the kind of the balance. If you don't mind activating things at random, if you build your squad like that, I don't know if you can build a squad like that, it means that that's less important, but you might want to say, okay, no, I really want to be able to control more finitely which units I activate. I might want to have more of the same kind of units, like say 2 stormtroopers and 2 units of speeder bikes, for example. It's a very interesting way of balancing out the game. And indeed, let's go back to these command cards, because that's what this article is all about. We can see out of the box, we're going to get 7 cards. Well, rather, we're going to have 4 generics and 3 cards for each commander, I would assume, based on what we can see here. That means we only get the choice of 7 cards out of this pack, but we don't yet know how these cards are going to appear in expansions. I'm guessing that as we get more single packs of commanders, like, I don't know, Han Solo or Boba Fett or the Emperor or stuff like that, it'll come with more command cards. And there doesn't seem to be any rules about whether or not you can take certain command cards, whether you must have a certain amount of pips, but I'm going to assume, based on what we can see, that that's not the case. Because, as I said before, there's this inbuilt balance where you want some of these ambushes or these single pip commander cards because you want to have that quick activation. But sometimes you want to play the card with 3 pips because you get to choose the order of 3 units, for example, and that's very powerful as well. Sure, you might not get to activate them first, But you still might. You still might get lucky. You still might come up against a guy playing 4 pips. And for that reason, I don't think there is going to be a restriction over which cards you can take. You could probably just choose any 7 of the cards you have, so long as you don't choose 2 of the same. I don't know how that's going to work. It doesn't explain in this article the restrictions over which command cards you can take, but I would assume you must choose 7 unique cards. Now, while we're here, actually, let's actually go through the rest of these cards, because I haven't talked about that yet. We have the 3 unique Vader cards here. I've already talked about Implaceable. We already have going up to 2 pips. New ways to motivate team. I quite like this. So this is 2 troopers, as in it must be stormtroopers or whatever core troopers we get coming in the next waves. And when a friendly non-Vader trooper unit with a face-up order token, means it must be one of these 2 troopers that you order, it may suffer 1 wound to perform one free action. Now, if you have stormtroopers and you suffer 1 wound, that means you take 1 mini off the board. In other words, Vader is just murdering a trooper in order to give the squad some more efficiency, which is really kind of dark. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to see anything like this on the Rebels. I think if we saw something like this on the Rebels, it would be like spun, so it adheres to the fluff because it's like a noble sacrifice or something like that. But in any case, I would hope that we don't just see the same things on Rebel and Imperial. And indeed, I doubt that we will. This is very much a flavour match for what Darth Vader is doing. And that's awesome. We also have Master of Evil. Now, this is actually the Vader version of what we have going on with Return of the Jedi, which I'll actually just bring up now, because this is the Luke-specific card that we're shown here. Again, 3 pips. It is a Luke Skywalker command card. When Luke Skywalker is issued an order, he gains 1 dodge token. When Luke Skywalker activates, each friendly trooper at range 1 to 3 of him may remove 1 suppression token. And suppression tokens limit a squad's capabilities. So basically, this card is a massive power play. It gives Luke more efficiency. It gives each friendly trooper at range 1 to 3 of him a massive boost. And it's probably a big swing that could potentially swing a whole game in your favour. And indeed, the Darth Vader version of this card is no different. Master of Evil, again, 3 pips. When Darth Vader is issued an order, he gains 1 dodge token. When Darth Vader activates, each enemy troop at range 1 to 3 gains 3 suppression tokens, really locking down your opponent. Again, it's a massive power play. It makes sense. It's the 3 pip cards for Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, and that all makes a lot of sense. What we're not shown in this pack is the 1 and 2 pip cards for Luke Skywalker. And I imagine they'll be very similar, albeit there'll be a flavour match for Luke Skywalker. As I said before, I don't think he's going to be the one murdering Rebel troopers. I think the Luke Skywalker version is going to help nearby Rebel troopers. We'll at least see. And Implaceable, again, will probably just be, in the Luke Skywalker version, a 1 pip version that gives him a bit more efficiency. Probably won't cause him to suffer 1 wound, but we will see how that works. It'll be a similar kind of thing, but flavour matched to Luke Skywalker. Now, one more thing I want to talk about today is also this one. Standing Orders is a 4 pip. This is a generic command card, and we can't see the whole thing, but we do get a little peek at the text here. It only activates 1 unit for 4 pips, and that seems really, really bad. But something the command phase, something card to your hand, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and says, at the end of the command phase, you may return a discarded command card to your hand. That's what I think this is saying. And that completely makes sense because of the overcosted nature and the underpowered nature of only activating 1 unit. This means you can get old command cards back into your hand and potentially use them again. Sure, you're telegraphing what you might play the next turn, but that just seems really powerful, and it seems to make sense that you'd use a 4 pip card on 1 unit. You need a big, impactful card text ability to sort of make up and rebalance the card, which makes a lot of sense. So yeah, these just look really awesome. It's a great, unique way of controlling your squads. It feels very at home here in this sort of the FFG family of games, but at the same time, this is a tactical squad-based game, and to have the FFG spin on something like Infinity or 40k, give it a bit of a fresh spin. It's a Star Wars game. It seems to really match the flavour of what Star Wars characters are doing. I love these Darth Vader cards. I think without question, I'm going to love playing Darth Vader as my commander. It's going to be what I'm going to be hyped about. Yeah, Imperials, I think, are going to be my jam in this game. This just seems to be like so much fun. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Stay tuned. Hopefully we'll have another one of these in the coming weeks. Hopefully I'm thinking we'll get one of these every week, but for the time being, thanks for watching. Like our Facebook page, like and subscribe, and I will catch you later.